In this chapter, we begin our journey into understanding what matter is and how it behaves. We will explore the basic ideas that help us understand the physical world around us. In this module, we start with a simple introduction. We will learn what matter actually means in science and how we identify something as matter. Take a moment to imagine your classroom. Think of the desks, chairs, books, and the objects you use every day. All of them have mass, and all of them occupy space. Even the air in the classroom, though invisible, is still present around you. Everything that has mass and occupies space is known as matter. Let us see a few more examples of matter around us. Everything around us is made up of matter. Fruits, flowers, sand in the desert, animals, water, air, clouds, and even stars are all forms of matter. Some of these are solids like fruits, flowers, sand, and animals. Water exists as a liquid, while clouds and air represent the gaseous state. Although matter appears in different forms, all of it is made up of tiny particles. These particles behave differently depending on their state. By observing these examples, we understand that matter exists in different states based on particle arrangement, energy, and space between particles. In Module 2, we move deeper into our understanding of matter. We will begin by learning how matter is classified based on its physical nature and composition. Then, we will explore three important concepts related to matter: energy, mass, and volume. These ideas will help us understand how matter behaves, how it can be measured, and how it interacts with the world around us. What is matter? Anything that has mass and occupies space is called matter, which you can perceive through your senses. Let's prove that air has mass. An empty football has a mass of 1 kilogram. When the football is filled with air, its mass becomes 1.5 kilograms. Conclusion: the mass of the football increases due to the air filled inside it. This proves that air has mass, and therefore, air is matter. What is mass and weight? Let's start by understanding the difference between mass and weight. Mass is a physical quantity that expresses the amount of matter in a body. It is the measure of the substance or material that an object contains, and it remains constant no matter where the object is located. Now, when we talk about weight, we use the formula. Weight is equal to mass times gravitational acceleration. This means weight is dependent on the mass of an object and the force of gravity acting on it. The weight can change depending on the location of the object because gravitational acceleration can vary. Practical example of mass and weight. Here's an example to help illustrate this. On the left, we have a pan weighing 2 kilograms of rice on a scale. This is the mass of the rice, 2 kilograms. Mass is measured in kilograms or grams. On the right, we see a girl weighing herself on a weighing scale. The scale measures her weight, which depends on her mass and the force of gravity in that specific location. So while her mass remains constant, her weight may vary if she were to travel to a different planet where gravity differs. Now let us understand the concept of volume. When we store substances like gas in a cylinder or oil in a bottle, we often want to know how much of it is present. This quantity cannot be described by mass alone, it also depends on the space it occupies. The red gas cylinder holds a certain amount of gas, and the oil bottle contains liquid oil. Both substances take up space inside their containers. This space that matter occupies is known as its volume. Volume tells us how much space a substance fills, whether it is a solid, liquid, or gas. In simple terms, the space inside the container that matter occupies is called its volume. Everything around us is not always matter. Some things do not have mass and do not occupy space. So, is everything around us matter? Look at these examples: heat, light, and sound. Heat warms us, light helps us see, and sound helps us hear. But none of these are matter. They are all different forms of energy. So while matter makes up the objects around us, energy allows things to happen in our world. Everything around us, like chalk, water, air, and even our bodies, is made of tiny particles. These particles are so small that we can't see them with our eyes. The basic building blocks of all matter are called atoms or molecules. So, no matter how big or small an object looks, it is always made up of these tiny particles. Welcome to Module 3. In this module, we begin exploring the properties of matter. The first property tells us something very important: matter is made up of tiny particles. Everything we see, touch, or use is built from these small particles that join together to form different kinds of matter. Let's move ahead and understand this property in detail. Understanding matter and small particles. Let's begin with a simple experiment. Take 100 milliliters of water in a beaker and dissolve a few crystals of potassium permanganate. As you mix, a deep purple color solution will form. This is a great demonstration of how matter, even in tiny amounts, can have a large effect. Now, take 10 milliliters of this solution and mix it with 90 milliliters of water in another beaker. Continue this dilution process for additional beakers. As you dilute, notice how the color becomes lighter. This happens because the small particles of potassium permanganate are spreading throughout the water, and the concentration decreases with each dilution. This simple process shows us how matter is made up of incredibly small particles. Even just 2 or 3 tiny crystals of potassium permanganate can color a large volume of water. Each crystal is made up of millions of tiny particles that spread and impart color when mixed with water. It's incredible how small these particles are, smaller than we can even imagine. Welcome to Module 4. In this module, we explore 2 important properties of matter. The second property tells us that the particles of matter have spaces between them. These spaces allow substances to mix, dissolve, and spread. The third property tells us that particles of matter are always in motion. They keep moving continuously, even when we cannot see them. Together, these properties help us understand how matter behaves in our everyday world. Let's understand the second property of matter, that particles of matter have spaces between them. Take 100 milliliters of water in a beaker and mark the level. Now add 50 grams of sugar to the water. Stir the mixture using a glass rod until all the sugar dissolves. You'll notice something interesting: the water level remains exactly the same, even though we added sugar to it. So, where did the sugar go? The sugar didn't disappear. Its tiny particles slipped into the empty spaces present between the water particles. This simple activity clearly shows that particles of matter have spaces between them. Let's look at the third property of matter. Particles of matter are continuously moving. When we add potassium permanganate to water, something interesting happens. Even without stirring, the purple color slowly spreads throughout the water. This happens because the tiny particles of potassium permanganate move on their own and mix with the water particles. This natural mixing of particles, without any external force, is called diffusion. The way the color spreads uniformly through the water shows us that the particles of matter are always in motion. Welcome to Module 5. In this module, we continue exploring how particles of matter behave. We already know that particles are always moving. Now, we take this idea further by learning about Brownian motion. Brownian motion helps us understand how tiny particles move in a zigzag, random way when they collide with even smaller, invisible particles. Let's look at this interesting motion in more detail. Particles of matter are continuously moving. Why can't we smell an unlit incense stick from a distance? The answer lies in the movement of particles. When you light an incense stick in one corner of a room, its fragrance spreads quickly across the room. This happens because the particles of the incense move rapidly in all directions, mixing with the air particles in the room. Kinetic energy and motion. When the incense stick is lit, the kinetic energy of its particles increases. This means that the molecules in the incense come into the vapor phase and diffuse through the surrounding air. As a result, the fragrance reaches every corner of the room. The same principle explains why we can eventually smell it, despite it starting in just one spot. What is kinetic energy? Now, let's take a closer look at kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is the energy that an object possesses due to its motion. In the case of the incense, the particles' motion is what allows them to spread the fragrance throughout the room. The faster the particles move, the more kinetic energy they have, allowing the fragrance to travel farther. Brownian motion and particle movement. Robert Brown and Brownian motion. In 1827, the scientist Robert Brown observed something remarkable. He found that tiny pollen grains suspended in water moved rapidly in a zigzag pattern when viewed under a microscope. This random movement was later explained as Brownian motion, which provided clear evidence of the movement of particles in liquids. Brownian motion in action. When sunlight enters a room, we can observe tiny dust particles suspended in the air. These particles move rapidly in a very haphazard way. They are constantly being hit by fast-moving air particles, which cause them to move in unpredictable patterns. This chaotic movement is another example of Brownian motion. What is Brownian motion? Brownian motion refers to the zigzag movement of small particles suspended in a liquid or gas. This motion increases with temperature. Higher temperatures cause particles to move faster. It provides strong evidence that particles are always in motion, even though we can't see them. The effect of temperature on Brownian motion. As temperature increases, Brownian motion becomes more intense. The particles move faster, and this phenomenon can be observed in both gases and liquids. Brownian motion, along with diffusion, serves as the best evidence of particle movement in matter. Welcome to Module 6. In this module, we continue exploring the amazing properties of matter. One of the most important processes that helps us understand how particles move and mix is diffusion. Diffusion explains how particles spread from one place to another on their own, whether it's the smell of perfume spreading across a room or ink mixing in water without stirring. Let's dive deeper into this process and see how diffusion helps us understand the behavior of matter all around us. Diffusion of bromine vapor. Here we see a gas jar containing red-brown bromine vapor. This gas has been released into the container and is gradually spreading throughout the air. Next, we invert another gas jar containing air over the jar with bromine vapor. This allows the vapor to diffuse and mix with the air in the second jar. As the bromine vapor starts to spread, we notice that the upper gas jar, which initially contained colorless air, also begins to turn red-brown. This happens because the vapor is diffusing into the air. This mixture of air and bromine vapor occurs due to the diffusion process. Bromine molecules are gradually spreading through the air, even though we can't see the individual particles. Similarly, air from the upper gas jar also diffuses into the lower gas jar, although we cannot see it happening. This invisible diffusion is a result of the motion of gas particles. Rate of diffusion. Diffusion is based on the motion of particles. It occurs faster in gases and slower in solids. As the temperature increases, the rate of diffusion also increases, making particles move more rapidly and spread quicker. Diffusion is the process where particles move from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. The movement of particles is influenced by temperature, and in gases, this process happens at a faster rate compared to solids. Diffusion of particles and everyday examples. The smell of food travels. Diffusion is the process where particles from different substances naturally mix. For example, when food is being cooked, the smell of the food, like pizza, spreads through the air. The smell reaches us even from a considerable distance, thanks to the diffusion of particles. Oxygen diffusion underwater. Diffusion plays a critical role underwater as well. The oxygen gas present in the air diffuses into water, dissolving in it. This dissolved oxygen allows aquatic animals, like fish and octopuses, to breathe and live underwater. Spreading of ink in water. Another clear example of diffusion is the spreading of ink in water. When ink is dropped into water, it quickly spreads and mixes throughout, showing how diffusion works in liquids. Perfume diffusion. When we spray perfume, the smell spreads due to the diffusion of perfume vapor into the air. As the perfume molecules move around, the scent reaches our nose, illustrating how diffusion happens in gases. While diffusion is fast in gases, it's very, very slow in solids. This is because the particles in solids are tightly packed and can't move as freely as in gases or liquids, making the diffusion process much slower. In this module, we will learn about an important property of matter, that the particles of matter attract each other. We will also briefly revise the main characteristics of matter, which help us understand how matter behaves in different forms. This overview will prepare us to explore these ideas with examples and activities in the upcoming slides. The particles of matter attract each other. To understand how particles of matter attract each other, take a piece of chalk, an iron nail, and a cube of ice, and imagine hitting them with a hammer. You will observe that the chalk breaks very easily into smaller pieces. The ice cube requires more force to break, whereas the iron nail does not break even when a large force is applied. This happens because the force of attraction between the particles of these substances is different. The attraction between the particles of chalk is weak, in ice it is stronger, and in an iron nail it is very, very strong. So, which substance is easier to break and which requires more force? Chalk is the easiest to break, ice needs more effort, and iron requires the maximum force. Thus, we can conclude that the force of attraction is maximum in solids and minimum in gases. The stronger the force of attraction between particles, the harder and stronger the substance is. Characteristics of particles of matter. 1. The particles of matter are very, very small. Even a tiny object is made up of millions of particles that cannot be seen with the naked eye. 2. The particles of matter have spaces between them. These spaces allow substances to change shape, mix with other substances, and exist in different states. 3. The particles of matter are in constant motion. They keep moving all the time, and when the temperature rises, the particles move faster due to an increase in energy. Finally, the particles of matter attract each other. This force of attraction holds the particles together and determines whether a substance is solid, liquid, or gas. Welcome to Module 8. In this module, we will learn about the states of matter. We will understand how matter exists in different forms and how its properties change from one state to another. Let us begin. States of matter. Physically, matter is classified into three main types based on its state. These states help us understand how matter behaves under different conditions. The three common states of matter are solid, liquid, and gas. For example, gold is a solid, water is a liquid, and smoke or air is a gas. Each state has different properties such as shape, volume, and movement of particles. Apart from these three common states, matter can also exist in two more states under special conditions of temperature and energy. One such state is plasma, which is formed at very high temperatures. Plasma is present in the sun and stars, where matter exists as superhot gases. Another special state of matter is the Bose-Einstein condensate. It is an artificially created state of matter formed at extremely low temperatures, close to absolute zero. Now that we know matter can exist in different states, let us study solids, liquids, and gases in detail to understand their properties and behavior better. Welcome to Module 9. In this module, we will study the solid state of matter. We will also learn about the properties of solids and understand why solids have a fixed shape and volume. Let us begin. Solid state of matter. In the solid state, the space between particles is the least. The particles are closely packed together, and the force of attraction between them is maximum. Because of this, the kinetic energy of particles is the least, and they can only vibrate about their fixed positions. Due to the close packing of particles, solids have a fixed structure. The particles cannot move freely, which makes solids strong and stable. Because of this structure, solids have a definite shape and a definite volume. Objects like a cupboard or a book have distinct boundaries and keep their shape under normal conditions. Solids are also almost incompressible. This means their volume does not change even when an external force is applied. The compressibility of solids is negligible. Another important property of solids is that they are rigid. Rigid solids are unbending and inflexible, which means their shape does not change easily when force is applied. Some solids change their shape when a force is applied. Based on how they behave after the force is removed, solids can be classified as elastic or plastic. Elastic solids change their shape when force is applied but regain their original shape once the force is removed. A common example of an elastic solid is a rubber band. When stretched and released, it comes back to its original shape. On the other hand, some solids are plastic in nature. Plastic solids change their shape when force is applied and do not regain their original shape even after the force is removed. Examples of plastic solids include clay and dough. Thus, elastic solids show temporary deformation, whereas plastic solids show permanent deformation. This difference helps us understand how different solids respond to applied force in everyday life. Welcome to Module 10. In this module, we will study the liquid state of matter and understand the properties of liquids. We will also learn about the gaseous state of matter and explore the properties of gases. This module will help us compare liquids and gases with solids and understand how matter behaves in different states. Let us begin. Liquid state of matter. In the liquid state, the space between the particles is moderate. The particles are neither too close nor too far apart. Because of this moderate spacing, the particles can move around each other. Since the particles can move, the force of attraction between liquid particles is less than in solids. The kinetic energy of the particles is also less, but more than that of solids. Properties of liquid. Due to this arrangement, liquids have a definite volume but no definite shape. They take the shape of the container in which they are kept. Liquids cannot be compressed easily because there is limited space between their particles. Therefore, their volume remains almost the same even when pressure is applied. All liquids can flow from one place to another. This property of liquids is called fluidity, and it is due to the ability of particles to slide past each other. Viscosity in liquids. To understand how different liquids flow, first arrange 4 transparent containers in a row. Next, place a scale in a slanting position inside each container so that the liquids can flow down easily. Now take 4 different liquids, water, milk, honey, and kerosene, and allow them to flow down the slanting scale. Carefully observe the speed at which each liquid comes down. You will notice that kerosene comes down first, followed by water, then milk, and honey comes down last. This shows that different liquids flow at different speeds. This difference in the flow of liquids is due to a property called viscosity. Viscosity is the resistance offered by a liquid to flow. Liquids with less viscosity flow easily, while liquids with more viscosity flow slowly. Hence, honey flows slowly, whereas kerosene flows very easily. Gaseous state of matter. In the gaseous state, the space between the particles is the highest. Because of this large space, gaseous particles move freely in all directions. Since the particles are far apart, the force of attraction between them is the least. As a result, the kinetic energy of gaseous particles is the highest, and they move very fast. Due to free movement of particles, gases do not have a definite shape or definite volume. They spread in all directions and fill the entire container. This is why the smell of delicious pizza can be felt from a distance. Gas particles diffuse quickly. Gases can flow easily, just like liquids. This shows that gases also possess the property of fluidity because their particles are continuously moving. Gases move very fast, but they can be stopped by the solid walls of a container. For example, cooking gas remains safely stored inside a gas cylinder. Gases can be easily compressed and squeezed together because there is a lot of empty space between their particles. This is why gases can be stored in soda bottles and balloons under pressure. Welcome to Module 11. In this module, we will distinguish between solids, liquids, and gases. We will compare their properties such as shape, volume, particle movement, and compressibility. This will help us clearly understand the differences between the 3 states of matter. Let us begin. Diffusion in liquids. All 3 states of matter, solids, liquids, and gases, can diffuse in liquids. However, the rate of diffusion in liquids is higher than that in solids. This happens because, in the liquid state, particles have more space between them and can move more freely compared to particles in the solid state. Due to this increased movement and spacing, diffusion occurs faster in liquids than in solids. Comparison of solids, liquids, and gases. Let us begin by comparing solids, liquids, and gases based on their shape, volume, interparticle forces, and space between particles. Solids have a fixed shape and fixed volume. The force of attraction between their particles is very strong, and the particles are packed very closely with very little space between them. Liquids do not have a fixed shape, but they have a fixed volume. The force of attraction between liquid particles is moderate, and the space between particles is also moderate, allowing them to move past one another. Gases have neither a fixed shape nor a fixed volume. The force of attraction between their particles is very weak, and the particles are far apart, which allows them to move freely in all directions. Now let us compare the three states of matter based on fluidity, compressibility, ability to fill a container, and density. Solids cannot flow, are not compressible, do not fill the container, and generally have high density. Liquids can flow, are not easily compressible, do not fill the container completely, and have moderate to high density. Gases can flow very easily, are highly compressible, easily fill the entire container, and have very low density. This comparison helps us clearly understand how solids, liquids, and gases differ from one another in their properties. Welcome to Module 12. In this module, we will study the change of state of matter, such as the conversion of solids into liquids and liquids into gases. We will also learn about the kinetic theory of matter, which explains how the movement and energy of particles affect the state of matter. This module will help us understand how temperature and energy play an important role in changing one state of matter into another. Let us begin. Change of state of matter. Let us begin by understanding the change of state of matter. Ice, water, and steam are all the same substance, but they exist in different states: solid, liquid, and gas. These changes can happen when matter gains or loses heat. So, an important question arises: what happens inside matter during this change? What happens to the particles when a solid changes into a liquid or a liquid changes into a gas? The state or phase of matter can change when temperature changes. When heat is supplied, particles gain energy, and when heat is removed, particles lose energy. Each addition of energy causes matter to move into a more active state. Solids change into liquids, and liquids further change into gases when energy is continuously added. This process is explained by the kinetic theory of matter. According to this theory, the change of state depends on three main factors: the space between particles, the force of attraction between particles, and the kinetic energy of particles, which is the energy of motion. As temperature rises, particles start moving faster. Their kinetic energy increases, and matter shifts to a more active state. When energy is added, particles move farther apart. This is why a solid changes into a liquid, and a liquid changes into a gas. In a solid, particles are very closely packed and have strong forces of attraction. Even when temperature increases, they only vibrate at their fixed positions. As heating continues, the solid melts into a liquid. In the liquid state, particles move away from each other and can slide past one another more freely. When the liquid is heated further, the temperature increases even more. As a result, the liquid changes into a gas, such as steam. During this process, particles gain more kinetic energy and move much faster. The particles move farther apart, and the force of attraction between them becomes very weak. This is why gases can spread out easily and move freely in all directions. Thus, by adding more heat energy, matter changes from the liquid state to the gaseous state. Now let us move to Module 13, which focuses on temperature. In this module, we will first understand what a temperature scale is and why different scales are used. Next, we will learn how to convert temperature values from one scale to another, such as Celsius, Fahrenheit, and Kelvin. Finally, we will solve numerical problems based on temperature, which will help us apply these concepts in real-life situations. Let us begin by understanding the different temperature scales. Understanding temperature and its measurement. What is temperature? Temperature is the measure of how hot or cold a substance is. It tells us the thermal energy that an object or substance possesses. Higher temperature means more heat energy, and lower temperature means less. Three common scales of temperature. Temperature can be measured in three different scales: Celsius, Kelvin, and Fahrenheit. Celsius, degree C, is the common scale used in everyday life, where water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius and boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Kelvin, K, is the C unit for temperature, widely used in scientific contexts. It starts at absolute zero, where all molecular motion ceases. Fahrenheit, degree F, is often used in the United States, where water freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit and boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit. The founders of temperature scales. The Celsius scale was developed by Anders Celsius. Lord William Thomson Kelvin gave us the Kelvin scale, and Gabriel Daniel Fahrenheit introduced the Fahrenheit scale. Each scale has its own context and applications. Kelvin scale. Let us first understand the Kelvin scale. The Kelvin scale is based on the concept of absolute zero. Absolute zero is the temperature at which a gas is cooled to obtain zero volume, and it is equal to 0 Kelvin. Such a condition and temperatures below it are not practically possible. Therefore, all temperatures on the Kelvin scale are positive values. Kelvin-Celsius relationship. To convert temperature between the Celsius scale and the Kelvin scale, we use a simple relation. Temperature on the Kelvin scale is equal to temperature on the Celsius scale plus 273. Numerical convert 25 degrees Celsius to Kelvin. Question. Convert the temperature of 25 degrees Celsius to the Kelvin scale. Solution. Temperature on Kelvin scale is equal to temperature on Celsius scale plus 273. Substituting the given value. 25 plus 273 equals 298. Thus, a temperature of 25 degrees Celsius is equal to 298 Kelvin. Numerical convert 300 K to Celsius. Question. Convert the temperature of 300 Kelvin to the Celsius scale. Solution. Temperature on the Kelvin scale is equal to temperature on the Celsius scale plus 273. So, 300 equals temperature on Celsius scale plus 273. Therefore, temperature on the Celsius scale is equal to 300 minus 273, which is 27 degrees Celsius. Thus, a temperature of 300 Kelvin is equal to 27 degrees Celsius. With this, we have understood the Kelvin scale and learned how to convert temperatures between Celsius and Kelvin. Welcome to Module 14. In this module, we'll explore the interconversion of states, how matter changes between solid, liquid, and gas. We'll focus on melting, when a solid turns into a liquid. Vaporization, when a liquid turns into a gas. Let's dive into these processes. Interconversion of states. In this module, we explore the interconversion of states, the process by which matter changes from one state to another. Solid to liquid, when a solid turns into a liquid, it undergoes melting or fusion. Liquid to solid, when a liquid turns back into a solid, it undergoes freezing. Liquid to gas, when a liquid is heated, it transforms into a gas through boiling or evaporation. Gas to liquid, a gas turns into a liquid through condensation. Solid to gas, the direct transition from solid to gas is called sublimation. Gas to solid, similarly, the reverse of sublimation, where a gas turns directly into a solid, is also sublimation. These transformations help us understand the changes in the states of matter through various processes. Let's dive deeper into each of these in our upcoming lessons. Effects of change of temperature. Solid to liquid, melting. When a solid changes into a liquid upon heating, this process is called melting or fusion. The melting point of a substance is the temperature at which it changes from a solid to a liquid at atmospheric pressure. The melting point of a solid also tells us about the strength of the attraction between its particles, whether atoms or molecules. Ice changes into water. The melting point of ice is 0 degrees Celsius, 0 degrees Celsius. The melting point of iron is 1535 degrees Celsius, 1535 degrees Celsius. Liquid to gas vaporization. When a liquid changes into a gas, the process is called vaporization. In this picture, we can see water changing into steam. This change from liquid water to water vapor happens due to heating. Vaporization takes place in two ways: boiling and evaporation. Let us first understand boiling. Boiling is the process in which a liquid changes rapidly into a gas when it is heated. The temperature at which a liquid boils and changes rapidly into a gas at atmospheric pressure is called the boiling point of that liquid. For example, the boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, water changes quickly into steam. So, boiling is a fast process of vaporization that occurs at a fixed temperature. In this module, we learn about condensation and freezing. Condensation is the change of a gas into a liquid when it cools, like water vapor forming droplets on a cold surface. Freezing is the change of a liquid into a solid when temperature is lowered, such as water turning into ice at 0 degrees Celsius. Change of gas into liquid. Let us understand the process of condensation. Condensation is the process in which a gas or vapor changes into a liquid by cooling. In simple words, when a gas loses heat, it turns back into a liquid. You can see steam changing into water. This shows that condensation is the reverse of boiling. Now, let us look at what happens in nature. During evaporation, water from lakes, rivers, and seas changes into water vapor due to heat from the sun. This water vapor rises high up into the atmosphere. As it rises higher, the temperature becomes low. Due to cooling, the water vapor condenses into tiny water droplets. These tiny droplets come together and form clouds. This process is called condensation. When the droplets become heavy, they fall back to the earth as rain or snow, which is called precipitation. So, condensation plays an important role in the water cycle. To summarize, gas changes into liquid on cooling. This process is called condensation. Freezing, change of liquid into solid. Now let us learn about freezing. The process of changing a liquid into a solid by cooling is called freezing. When water is cooled, it loses heat energy. As a result, the particles move slower and come closer together. Because of this, water changes into ice. This shows the change from liquid state to solid state. Freezing is the reverse process of melting. In melting, a solid changes into a liquid on heating, whereas in freezing, a liquid changes into a solid on cooling. So, when water freezes, it becomes ice. This process is called freezing. Welcome to Module 16. In this module, we will focus on two important concepts. Latent heat of fusion, the heat required to change a substance from solid to liquid without changing its temperature. Latent heat of vaporization, the heat required to change a substance from liquid to gas without changing its temperature. Let's explore these concepts further in this module. Latent heat of fusion. Let us begin with an experiment to understand latent heat of fusion. Take some crushed ice in a beaker. Now, suspend a thermometer in the crushed ice. Note the temperature of the ice. You will observe that the temperature is 0 degrees Celsius. Next, heat the ice gently by using a small flame of the burner. As long as even a little ice remains in the beaker, there is no rise in temperature during the melting of ice. This shows that the heat supplied is not used to increase temperature. Instead, this heat energy is used to change the state of the substance by overcoming the force of attraction between the particles. The latent heat of fusion, also called the latent heat of melting, is the quantity of heat required to convert 1 kilogram of a solid, at its melting point, into liquid without any change in temperature. In simple words, the heat that goes into ice without increasing its temperature is the energy required to change ice from solid to liquid water. The latent heat of fusion of ice is 3.34 into 10 to the power 5 joules per kilogram. Thus, during melting, temperature remains constant because the supplied heat is completely used to change the state of matter. This hidden heat is known as the latent heat of fusion. Why ice at 0 degrees Celsius cools better than water at 0 degrees Celsius? Let us understand why ice at 0 degrees Celsius is more effective in cooling than water at 0 degrees Celsius. Ice at 0 degrees Celsius cools a substance more effectively than water at the same temperature. This is because, for melting, each kilogram of ice requires latent heat of 3.34 into 10 to the power 5 joules. This heat is taken from the substance in contact with the ice, and therefore the substance loses more heat and cools faster. Now consider a simple example. When we hold a piece of ice in our hand, it feels very cold. This happens because the ice needs latent heat for melting. It absorbs this latent heat from our hand. As a result, our hand loses heat, and we feel cold. Thus, ice cools more effectively than water at the same temperature because it absorbs extra heat in the form of latent heat of fusion. Now let us move on to latent heat of vaporization. Take some water in a beaker. Suspend a thermometer in it and heat the water using a burner. Note the temperature after every minute. As the temperature rises gradually, it finally reaches 100 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, water starts boiling and begins changing into steam. Even though heat is continuously supplied, the thermometer reading remains constant at 100 degrees Celsius during boiling. The heat supplied during boiling is not used to increase the temperature. Instead, It is used to overcome the forces of attraction between water particles so that they become free and change into a gas. The latent heat of vaporization of a liquid is defined as the quantity of heat required to convert 1 kilogram of the liquid at its boiling point into vapor, without any change in temperature. The latent heat of vaporization of water is 22.5 into 10 to the power 5 joules per kilogram. Both boiling water and steam are at 100 degrees Celsius, but steam contains more heat energy in the form of latent heat. When steam comes in contact with the skin, it condenses into water and releases this latent heat. That is why burns caused by steam are much more severe than burns caused by boiling water. The boiling point of water is 373 Kelvin, since 100 degrees Celsius equals 273 plus 100, which is 373 Kelvin. Thus, latent heat explains why temperature remains constant during a change of state and why ice and steam have strong cooling and heating effects even at the same temperature. In this module, we will study the effect of pressure on change of state. We will understand how applying pressure can change a substance from one state to another without changing temperature. Change of state, effect of pressure. The phase or state of matter can change when the pressure changes. In gases, the particles are far apart from one another. There is a lot of empty space between the particles of a gas. Now, consider a gas taken inside a closed cylinder fitted with a piston. The piston is free to move up and down inside the cylinder. When no pressure is applied, the gas particles remain far apart. Now, the piston is pushed inward. This means pressure is being applied to the gas. As the piston is pushed in, the gas particles are forced closer together. If enough force is applied to the piston, the gas becomes highly compressed. Due to compression, the particles of gas come very close to each other. When gas particles come close enough, they start attracting each other sufficiently. Because of this attraction between particles, the gas changes into a liquid state. However, while applying pressure to liquefy gases, cooling is also necessary. This is because compression produces heat in the gas. Cooling helps to remove the heat produced during compression. When heat is removed, the particles lose energy and remain close together. As a result, the gas particles stay condensed and form a liquid. Thus, gases can be liquefied by applying pressure and lowering temperature. Liquefaction of gases: carbon dioxide, dry ice. Applying pressure and reducing temperature can change the state of matter. In gases, the particles are very far apart and move freely, with a lot of empty space between them. When pressure is applied using a piston, the gas particles are forced closer together. As the piston is pushed in, the gas becomes highly compressed. The particles come so close that they begin to attract each other strongly. However, while applying pressure to liquefy gases, cooling is also necessary. Cooling removes the heat produced during compression. This allows the gas particles to slow down and stay closer together. Therefore, gases can be liquefied by applying high pressure and lowering the temperature. Let us understand this with an example: carbon dioxide. When pressure is applied and temperature is decreased, carbon dioxide solidifies. Carbon dioxide is stored under high pressure. When the pressure is suddenly reduced to 1 atmosphere, solid carbon dioxide changes directly into the gaseous state, without passing through the liquid state. This process is called sublimation. Because solid carbon dioxide changes directly into gas, it is known as dry ice. In this module, we will study sublimation, a change of state where a solid directly changes into a gas without becoming a liquid. Sublimation. Sublimation is a special type of change of state. It is the process in which a substance changes directly from solid to gas without changing into the liquid state. In some cases, the change can also happen from gas directly to solid. This process is known as sublimation. In sublimation, solid particles gain energy and escape directly into the gaseous state. There is no liquid stage involved in this change. Let us now look at some examples of substances that undergo sublimation. Ammonium chloride is a sublimatized substance. On heating, it changes directly from solid to gas. Anthracene also undergoes sublimation. It changes directly into vapors when heated. Camphor is a common example of sublimation. It slowly changes from solid to vapor even at room temperature. Solid carbon dioxide, also known as dry ice, changes directly from solid to gas without becoming liquid. Iodine is another sublimatized substance. On heating, it forms violet-colored vapors. So, substances like ammonium chloride, anthracene, camphor, iodine, and dry ice show the process of sublimation. This makes sublimation a unique change of state. Naphthalene balls are commonly kept in toilets. Have you ever wondered why? Naphthalene is a sublimatized substance. This means it changes directly from solid to gas without becoming a liquid. When naphthalene balls are kept in toilets, they slowly sublime and release their vapors into the air. These vapors spread throughout the washroom and produce a strong, pleasant smell. Because of this property, naphthalene balls help keep toilets fresh smelling and also repel insects. That is why naphthalene balls are used in toilets. Sublimation experimental demonstration. Step 1. Arrangement of the apparatus. Let us demonstrate the process of sublimation using ammonium chloride. Take a china dish and place some powdered ammonium chloride in it. Now, cover the china dish with an inverted glass funnel. A cotton plug is placed at the mouth of the funnel. This cotton plug is used to prevent ammonium chloride vapors from escaping into the atmosphere. Step 2. Heating the substance. Next, the china dish is gently heated using a burner placed below it. On heating, ammonium chloride does not melt. Instead, it directly changes from solid state into vapor. This change of state directly from solid to gas is called sublimation. Step 3. Formation of sublimate. As the vapors rise, they come in contact with the cool inner surface of the inverted funnel. Here, the vapors change back into solid form. The solid ammonium chloride gets deposited on the inner sides of the funnel. This deposited solid is known as the sublimate. Conclusion. This experiment clearly shows that ammonium chloride is a sublimatized substance. It changes directly from solid to gas on heating, and then back to solid on cooling, without passing through the liquid state. In Module 19, we will study evaporation. We will also learn about the factors that affect the rate of evaporation. Evaporation. Evaporation is a process by which a liquid changes into its gaseous form, that is, vapor, at any temperature below its boiling point. In evaporation, the change of state takes place from liquid to vapor. An important point to remember is that evaporation can occur even at room temperature and normal air pressure. Evaporation. Evaporation is a process by which a liquid gets converted into its gaseous form at any temperature below its boiling point. This process can take place even at room temperature and under normal air pressure. In evaporation, the change of state occurs from liquid to vapor. The liquid does not need to boil for evaporation to happen. As soon as the molecules leave the liquid state and escape into the air, we say that evaporation has occurred. Now let us understand the process of evaporation. In a liquid, not all molecules have the same energy. Some molecules have lower energy and remain inside the liquid, while some molecules at the surface have higher energy. The molecules present at the surface absorb heat energy from the surroundings or room temperature. After gaining sufficient energy, these high-energy molecules overcome the forces of attraction and escape from the surface of the liquid. These escaping molecules form vapor above the liquid surface. The molecules left behind inside the liquid are mostly low-energy molecules. Thus, evaporation is a surface phenomenon in which only the molecules at the surface of a liquid take part and change into vapor without reaching the boiling point. Factors affecting evaporation. Now let us understand the factors that affect the rate of evaporation. First, surface area. When the surface area of a liquid is large, more molecules are exposed to air. This allows more molecules to escape into the vapor state. So, greater the surface area, greater is the evaporation. Next is temperature. When temperature increases, the molecules of the liquid gain more kinetic energy. More molecules get enough energy to leave the liquid surface and change into vapor. Therefore, higher the temperature, higher is the rate of evaporation. The third factor is humidity. Humidity is the amount of water vapor present in the air. When the humidity of air is low, evaporation takes place faster because the air can hold more water vapor. When the humidity of air is high, evaporation becomes slow. Finally, wind speed. When wind speed increases, water vapor particles are carried away from the surface of the liquid. This reduces the amount of vapor near the surface and allows more evaporation to take place. So, more the wind speed, more is the evaporation. In this module, we will look at some common examples of boiling and evaporation. We will also understand the difference between boiling and evaporation based on temperature, speed, and where the process takes place. Room versus open space. Clothes kept in an open space dry faster than clothes kept inside a room. This is because wind speed is higher in open spaces. More wind speed increases the rate of evaporation, causing faster drying. Wind speed also affects the rate of evaporation. When wind speed is high, water vapor particles are carried away quickly. This allows more liquid particles to evaporate. More the wind speed, more the rate of evaporation. More the surface area, more the evaporation. Surface area and evaporation. On a rainy day, water collects on the road in the form of puddles. The next day, when there is no rainfall, the size of the puddle is reduced. This happens because evaporation takes place. Since the puddle spreads over a large surface area, more water molecules escape into the air. Less surface area means a slower rate of evaporation. Hot tea is poured into a saucer to cool it faster. When tea is spread in a saucer, its surface area increases. More surface area allows more evaporation to take place. As a result, heat is lost quickly and the tea cools faster. Vaporization change of state. Vaporization is the process by which a liquid changes into a gas. This change of state occurs when liquid particles gain enough energy to move freely and escape into the air. Vaporization takes place in two different ways: boiling and evaporation. Let us now understand each of these processes in detail. Boiling and evaporation as types of vaporization. Vaporization can be classified into two processes. One is boiling, and the other is evaporation. Though both involve the change from liquid to gas, they occur under different conditions and show different characteristics. Boiling. Boiling is a process in which a liquid changes into gas throughout the entire body of the liquid. External heating is required for boiling to occur. It is known as a bulk phenomenon because it does not happen only at the surface but takes place in the whole liquid at a fixed temperature. A common example of boiling is the boiling of water. Evaporation. Evaporation is the process by which a liquid slowly changes into gas without external heating. It occurs only at the surface of the liquid, so it is called a surface phenomenon. Evaporation depends on several factors such as the nature of the liquid, surface area, wind speed, temperature, and humidity in the air. A common example of evaporation is the drying of clothes. Comparison summary. To summarize, boiling requires external heating and occurs throughout the liquid. Evaporation does not require heating and occurs only at the surface. Both boiling and evaporation are important processes of vaporization that help us understand how liquids change into gases in our daily life. Module 21. In this module, we will learn about examples of evaporation, examples of condensation, and we will also give reasons related to evaporation and condensation. Cooling in an earthen pot, matka. How does the water kept in an earthen pot, also called a matka, become cool during summer? The earthen pot has a large number of very tiny pores in its walls. These pores are so small that they are not easily visible, but they play a very important role. Some of the water stored inside the pot slowly oozes out through these tiny pores to the outer surface of the pot. This water present on the outer surface of the earthen pot evaporates continuously. During evaporation, water needs energy in the form of latent heat of vaporization. This heat is taken from the earthen pot and from the water inside it. As heat is continuously taken away for evaporation, the remaining water inside the pot loses heat. Because of this loss of heat, the temperature of the water inside the earthen pot decreases. As a result, the water kept in an earthen pot becomes cool, especially during hot summer days. Effect of spirit on skin. What do you feel when spirit is applied on your hand? You feel a cooling sensation. This happens because the spirit applied on the skin evaporates very quickly. During evaporation, the spirit absorbs latent heat energy from the skin. As heat is taken away from the hand, the temperature of that region decreases. Hence, the area where spirit is applied becomes cold. Condensation on a cold bottle. Why do we see water droplets on the surface of a bottle containing cold water? This happens due to condensation. Water vapor present in the air comes in contact with the cold surface of the bottle. On touching the cold surface, the water vapor loses heat energy. As a result, the water vapor condenses and changes into liquid water droplets. Hence, we see water droplets on the outer surface of the bottle. Cotton clothes in summer. Why should we wear cotton clothes in summer? During summer, our body sweats more to keep itself cool. Cotton is a good absorber of water, so it absorbs sweat from our skin. This sweat then evaporates easily into the air. Evaporation removes heat from our body, making us feel cool and comfortable. Thank you for watching. Keep learning and keep exploring. For worksheets, detailed notes, and test papers related to this topic, visit our website edushri.in. Website link is given in description box. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more learning videos. See you soon in the next lesson.